Life's not always in your control. You can let it slip away from you, or you can grab it. When you can see something so clearly, sometimes it's not enough to walk there. Thanks everyone for sticking around this whole time. I know I sound like a bit of a broken record. These types of videos wouldn't be possible without you, so thank you. A lot has happened over the last few years, and I'm just gonna try and explain why you guys haven't seen so much of me, so. I felt like I had gotten a bit of momentum going into 2020, and I could see a clear vision for the future of this channel and what I was going to do the next little while. Then, out of the blue, COVID hits, and then my plans just go in the trash, like I'm sure happened to so many of you. It sucked, but I remember my friends and I constantly talking like, we gotta do something about this, and we couldn't even go outside and live our lives, so something had to change. We could stay at home and continue to feel sorry for ourselves, or make the best of the hand we were dealt. Sometimes all you need is a little push. And there began the start of what would be the best 3 years of my life. We were seeking a fresh start and found it. Going into that summer, I knew I wanted to make something related to our story of moving across the country and taking a leap. It was something that resonated deeply with me, and I also felt like the travel space on YouTube was missing a genuine rendition of that concept. From that point forward, I was motivated and committed to trying to make it happen. This was a passion project for me, and there was no budget, so I would just get my friends to help out whenever they could. I'd get them behind the lens of the camera and direct. Me and one of my closest buddies, Drew, ended up hiking mountains late into November, just partly because I was chasing some of these elusive shots. When I ended up at the editing board, I looked at what I had, and it just didn't seem like a good representation of what my friends and I had experienced that summer. To me, it's really important to continue to progress my work and have that feeling of authenticity in it. When I felt like what I had made didn't have that, it just didn't sit right with me. And I ended up scrapping the whole thing. Like, I don't even have the project file anymore. I just deleted it. When this all happened, my mental health took a bit of a nosedive, and luckily I have people around me who know how to get me out of situations like that. It was my buddy Connor who suggested I go into things with a fresh outlook. He was trying to get me to come down to the US for a road trip, and I was sold. So I convinced my best friend Omer to come down and put his life on hold with me.
Come on, son! Oh man, back at it already. Look at the legs I did. Holy fuck. Yeah.
Just hanging out here in
Nerd Neck National Park.
filming like a 3-shot sequence.
It's very important when you do this and you organize your shots accordingly. Does that make sense?
We spent the next month road tripping all over the Midwest. Flew by crazy quick, and I was looking at renting a camper van to replace one of the shots I had gotten the previous summer. I was thinking to myself, why don't I just buy a van instead of continue to rent vehicles? And it was a win-win in my head too, because we could continue road tripping and Omer could help me out with the rest of the shots for this video. So that's what we ended up doing, and I got a van, and it went so smooth.
Where do I start? We have flies everywhere. Our fridge is probably 30 degrees by now.
Food gone.
Food gone.
Water low. Hottest day of the year, and this beautiful beast decided to break down on us.
And that was our day on the road. We were supposed to be shooting in Sequoia right now, and we've been stuck on the highway for 4 hours.
Yeah, on the hottest day of the year.
On the hottest day of the year. At least the sunset's pretty, honestly. That's all.
Sunset's pretty. We
That's all I
got
gotta say.
some cows down over there. That's good.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
We ended up sleeping overnight on the side of the highway.
It's been 2 days. 2 days? Yeah, 48 hours since we broke down. Finally got it hooked up to a U-Haul. We literally just slept in this little mechanic shop. Police officers stopping us saying like, watch out, make sure you have weapons. Look at the piece that came off the engine. Look at that.
Like,
Yeah. We had to tow the van all the way back down to San Diego, which was opposite the direction we were headed.
This is actually the biggest life hack ever.
What more can you ask for?
We lived out of the back of a U-Haul for a week while we waited for the van to be repaired. I had booked us a mountaineering trip up Mount Baker as well as a couple days of guided rock climbing. So once the van was fixed, we raced back up the coast to make it to our trip on time. And I brought my dad along for his birthday, and we got treated with some of the best weather possible. And it was all in all just an amazing experience. The climbing didn't really go according to plan. Our guide was incredible. I had Connor and Omer with me to help get some shots. The weather was perfect. The problem, honestly, was with me. I just completely underestimated the amount of skill and finesse required to get some of the shots that I had envisioned in my head.
How do you feel, Jacob?
How do I feel?
I feel I got told I wasn't fucking needed. I could have been home a fucking week ago.
My eyes kind of opened a bit, and I realized that I wasn't going to be able to cut corners on some things with this video, and I would have to put in some effort to make it happen. Hiking Mount Baker and this climbing experience just put things into perspective for me and would ultimately end up fueling a lot of the adventures that happened the following year.
This is about...
Alright, you can switch sides.
Oh, fuck.
You're all set. Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Thanks.
Take care.
After the trip, Omer and I made it back to Canada, and little did we know this would mark the start of the next 4 months living in a van together. When we got back, we posted up in Squamish alongside all the other van dwellers, and I dedicated the rest of the summer to hiking and trying to learn some more rock climbing to eventually wrap my head around these shots.
Star Trek.
First 5'11" we've ever done.
It's like 5'6".
I never ended up getting those shots that summer. In the early fall, I was lucky enough to get 2 opportunities back to back, which was kind of funny considering the stark difference between the two. First, I went on tour for 5 days with Sam Felt over the US, and that was just a hectic experience and a ton of fun. And then after that, I went straight to Leone Africa with Kev and the Legend Bracelet team to help document what they were doing to bring water to underprivileged communities in that area.
I feel like a lot of people are still disconnected from the fact that 2,000 kids per day die from dirty water. When you can't see it, it gets hard to recognize that that's still going on every single day in these countries. We're here in Sierra Leone, Africa, in order to provide access to clean water to the local and rural villages. My belief is that everyone can do something and start a little spark that leads to something much bigger. The meaning behind Follow Your Legend is to inspire people to leave their own positive legacy on the planet.
You're one of your kind. We want to say thank you and we appreciate you, and we pray that this particular project continues in Sierra Leone.
We plan on providing access to clean water to more and more people, and really we're just getting started.
It was a super humbling experience, and it was awesome being able to hang out with all those kids and feel like I was helping make a difference. By the time I returned, I was unable to get those climbing shots just due to it being the end of the season, so I was kind of at a bit of a standstill with the video. I'd actually seen this photo from a photographer based out of BC, his name's Taylor Michael Burke, of them pack rafting down a river canyon in Mexico, and I saw it and I was like, that looks incredible, and I thought it would fit the theme of the video super well, so I had my heart set on going to do it. I was able to rally Omer and Drew together to come down to Mexico for quite literally that one shot.
Fast forward an hour and we'll be building a ramp.
And it's pissing.
And
we're stuck in a ditch.
Just prior to the trip, I must have gotten some pretty bad food poisoning, so we weren't able to carry it out on our own because we were low on time, and it was a pretty logistics heavy trip. Luckily, last second, a tour company brought us in, and we had these awesome tour guides that we could hardly understand, but we were able to get us down into this canyon. And next thing we knew, we were floating down the canyon on this inflatable raft that looks like it could have been from Walmart. We brought pool noodles down into the canyon so Omer and Drew could float and get the shots, and it was hilarious, but it worked. The rest of the canyon was unbelievable, and we slept in one of the coolest places I've probably ever been.
Well, it actually starts by talking about how our trip was going to shit and nothing was going as planned. But then the bull cycle began and things took a turn. And the last 24 hours were some of the best we've ever had.
After Mexico wrapped up, I returned to BC for the winter, and I ended up coming home to a week where it was like negative 30 degrees Celsius overnight in Whistler, and all I had was my sleeping gear and my -7 sleeping bag. So for that week, I kind of just froze my ass off. I spent that winter getting familiar with backcountry skiing because I knew in the future I wanted to really make a leap into that space and begin to make films about skiing because that's one of the sports that's been with me since I've been a kid. By that point, I had a clear vision of what I wanted the Eternal Summer video to look like. I knew the most elusive stuff that I had to get was still that rock climbing sequence. I only really had half a summer of outdoor climbing underneath my belt, and just due to the nature of the sport, unless you're really living it 24/7, it's kind of hard to progress. I had a friend from back home, Yannick, who was also living in Squamish and doing the van life thing, and I was explaining to him where my head was at with everything, and he told me, man, I think I want to commit myself this entire summer to just purely rock climbing, because when's the next time I'm gonna have this little responsibility and be able to fully throw myself into the deep end at something like this? It takes two to tango with rock climbing, so he was kind of trying to get me in on the idea, and I was a little bit reserved at first, admittedly. I was like, it sounds great in theory, but I got this project I'm working on and I don't really want to throw it on the back burner. But as we got more and more into talking, like Yannick was into the video production side of things as well, and I was just started to think to myself, like, man, when is the next time I'm gonna be able to do this with someone who's so committed to the cause and is someone I'm already friends with? Yannick kind of sold me on the idea of documenting our journey as well, of being a couple dirtbags that summer, and reflecting on it too, I was like, who am I to put a rock climbing sequence in my video if I'm not really willing to make it a part of my identity? So then began the start of what is probably the best way to describe it as a heinous summer. We started on some easier routes. We knew the only way to progress was to eventually invest into a trad rack and really wrap our heads around trad climbing. Yannick had told me before the summer started that his goal by the end of the summer was to complete this route called Angel's Crest. I remember thinking, all right, well, this is a pretty feasible goal for the end of the summer. And next thing I knew, 3 weeks in, we had completed it. By the end of the summer, we had done most of the classic moderate multi-pitches in Squamish, and we ended up wrapping things with the multi-pitch on the Chief, which is called the Grand Wall, and it's rated at 11A, so we were pretty happy about that. We really went balls to the wall within the span of a couple months. I don't want to dive too deep into everything because we are working on a standalone video about that summer, but we also had a couple of mountaineering trips where we ended up on the mountain overnight each time, and it was just crazy.
Come back the next day, it's fallen into this crevasse, and I just managed to see it.
Shooting a video on the climbing wall takes a ton of prep, and we had Drew come up and help us out countless times. By the end of the summer, I finally had those 3 climbing shots that I needed for my climbing sequence. It was really a summer of dedication, and seeing this unattainable goal in the distance eventually be met was just incredible, and I'm so glad that we didn't cut any corners and we truly lived it. Once the summer was over, Yannick and I went to Vietnam to meet up with Omer and our hometown friend Ben. In hindsight, it was all just a little bit too much too soon. There were so many other things on each of our minds, but it was great to be able to have those types of conversations with my best friends and get a bit of a rest off of the constant adrenaline from that summer. The winter rolled around and I wasn't living in the van this time around, thankfully, but my buddy Matt and I dedicated the winter to doing a ton of backcountry skiing, and it was similar to that summer of climbing where we pushed our limits beyond what we thought we could do and just embraced the suffering that comes with climbing mountains.
Yeah, if we can do this, anything's possible. Anything's possible.
2023 went by in a bit of a flash. A lot of my time and energy was spent trying to wrap our heads around this ski project we wanted to complete. I was able to get out on a couple of backcountry trips and rock climbing days, but my head was just mainly with the projects. In the fall, Yannick and I went to Oregon to get some of the beach shots that you see at the start of the video and film the eclipse that was passing through there. It ultimately ended up being a fail because it was cloudy, so I was like, all right, on to the next idea. I attempted to shoot the wide floating shots that you see in the video twice as well, once in a studio and once in a pool, and both didn't really turn out to the effect that I had hoped. After that, I returned home to try and finish up the rest of the video, and a lot of time was spent tweaking and refining the ideas that I had. When there was finally a super clear idea of what the rest of the video was going to look like, I had Ben and some friends and family help me out to finish the rest of the shots. Only one of them really remained, and I was lucky enough that another solar eclipse was passing through our hometown, so I drove an hour and a half to get out of the cloud cover and get the shot, and I couldn't help but feel like that was symbolic to this 3 to 4 year journey coming to an end. For so long, I wanted this video to be perfect, and I felt like I had one shot to do it and do it right. The mentality of refusing to cut corners was probably more detrimental to the project than it was helpful, but the same token, I probably wouldn't have experienced so many of the things that made this journey so special. The message of the video, in my eyes, changed multiple times as time went on and I progressed as an individual. What started as a video that was meant to inspire others to go out there and do cool things evolved into this message to myself to have a positive outlook on life. I know I feel my best when I'm pushing my limits, saying yes to opportunities, and trying my best to live in the moment. So what was stopping me from doing that all of the time? At the end of the day, it's really up to you to make that decision, and it can feel tough on your own, but with the right people around you that share that same drive for a fulfilling life, it becomes a hell of a lot easier. I'm so lucky I have friends around me that share that same sentiment. And when I look back at what it took to make the Eternal Summer, it's easy for my mind to go to all the hardships, all of the time and money invested. But as soon as I really start to think about it, it gets overshadowed quick by the memories.
It's like 10 p.m. and we're decided now is the best time to use the car keys.
You take one, take your partner.
The Eternal Summer became something of a meme amongst my friends because it was taking me so long to finish it, which in itself is a fitting name. But I think I just didn't want that chapter of my life to be over.
So he's just searching in the forest right now, looking for car keys. We're screwed. We are absolutely screwed.
All of those once-in-a-lifetime moments shared with the people closest to me, that's the stuff that'll stay with you forever.
He's back.
Are you ever gonna forgive me?
I just don't know if I'll be able to trust him.
Probably should.
I should trust you.
Because I fucking found the key.
And you gotta hold on to those feelings. Because life gets lost without them.
I can do all that. Never doubt.
That's what makes you want to do it all over again.